Hello, it's me, mayohosko, coming to you at 60 frames per second in 4K resolution on the iPhone 13. Okay, so there's something rather pressing I want to talk about in this video. And this is a video that was inspired by YouTube user a brother from another brick. He did a opinion video himself about the subject I'm going to talk about. So I will leave a link in the description down below so that you can go and watch Brother from Another Brick's video. And to kind of spill the beans what I'm going to be talking about, I will leave a link for the press release by the Lego Group titled "Girls Are Ready to Overcome Gender Norms, but Society Continues to Enforce Biases That Hamper Their Creative Potential." So I just wanted to go over some of my thoughts about some of the nitty-gritties within the press release. And I want to particularly target the paragraphs of their press release under the bracket "Ready for Girls" and, if I can find it, the role of Lego play. So for those who haven't seen the press release, I will leave a link in the description down below. So first of all, I just wanted to quickly read out what this stuff says. So under the subsection "Ready for Girls," it says, "The research findings show that girls are ready for the world, but society isn't quite ready to support their growth through play. Girls feel less restrained by and are less supportive of typical gender biases than boys when it comes to creative play. 70% of boys versus 62% of girls believe that some activities are just meant for girls, while others are meant for boys, and they are more open towards different types of creative play compared to what their parents and society typically encourage. Special emphasis around that. Parents and society. For example, 82% of girls believe it is okay for girls to play football, presumably association football, but you could interpret that as American football or rugby or Australian rules football or Gaelic football or any of the other codes of football, and boys to practice ballet, compared to only 71% of boys. However, despite the progress made in girls brushing off prejudice at an early age, general attitudes surrounding play and creative careers remain unequal and restrictive according to this research. For the most creative professions, parents who answered the survey imagine a man regardless of whether they have a son, daughter, or both. They are almost 6 times as likely to think of scientists and athletes as men than women, 85% versus 15%, and over 8 times as likely to think of engineers as men than women, 89% versus 11%. The children surveyed in this research share these same impressions, except girls are much more likely than boys to consider a wide range of professions to be for both women and men. Our insights further indicate that girls are typically encouraged into activities that are more cognitive, artistic, and related to performance compared to boys, who are more likely to be pushed into physical and STEM-like activities, digital science, building tools. Parents from this study are almost 5 times as likely to encourage girls over boys to engage in dance, 81% versus 19%, and dress up, 83% versus 17% activities, and over 3 times as likely to do the same for cooking/baking, 80% versus 20%. Adversely, they are almost 4 times as likely to encourage boys over girls to encourage in program games, 80% versus 20%, and sports, 76% versus 24%. And over twice as likely to do the same when it comes to coding toys, 71% versus 29%. So that was that paragraph. And then I just wanted to quickly go down to the subsection that is the role of Lego play. The LEGO Group believes in the value of learning through play and that the development of 21st century skills from LEGO Play are equally relevant to all children. While many parents perceive the LEGO brand as a good example of an inclusive toy brand, LEGO Play is still considered more relevant to boys than girls, with 59% of parents saying they encourage their sons to build with Lego bricks, compared to 48% who say they encourage it to their daughters. This view became more pronounced when parents were asked to complete an implicit bias assessment, and 76% said they would encourage Lego Play. They would encourage Lego Play to a son versus 24% who would recommend it to a daughter. The benefits of creative play, such as building confidence, creativity, and communication skills, are felt by all children, and yet we still experience age-old stereotypes that label activities as only being suitable for one specific gender. At the LEGO Group, we know we have a role to play in putting this right, and this campaign is one of several initiatives we are putting in place to raise the awareness of the issue and ensure we make LEGO Play as inclusive as possible. All children should be able to reach their true creative potential, says Julia Golden, CMO LEGO Group. The Ready for Girls campaign aims to help girls rebuild the story and welcome more girls to LEGO building, which I 100% support. It always warms my heart to see more and more female LEGO collectors or enthusiasts on YouTube, because, to be honest, I'd say that they are probably double or even triple the amount that there was 5 years ago. So I have noticed that amount of progress, and I am really happy about that, because Lego is for all people. Lego is timeless. So how could I not be in support of not only more people getting into the hobby, but more people who might have had preconceived ideas that they couldn't get into the hobby, like somehow they were excluded from the hobby, being able to get into the hobby. Because Lego has never told certain people that they can't play with their brand, that they can't play with their toys, because that would not be a good business strategy. Anyway, the Ready for Girls campaign aims to help girls rebuild the story and welcome more girls into LEGO building, ensuring they aren't losing out on the benefits of LEGO Play due to societal expectations. The company will ensure any child, regardless of gender, feels they can build anything they like, playing in a way that will help them develop and realize their unique talent. Yes, so those were some of the statements from the press release sent out by the LEGO Group, and I will put a link in the description so you can view that, and that itself is on the actual LEGO website. So you notice that I put some emphasis around society and the parents and encourage. Well, that's because, well, my general thought about that press release is that Lego, like I just said, has never told certain people they cannot play with Lego toys. Lego has never pointed to girls. They've never pointed to boys. They've never pointed to people of the LGBTIQA community. They've never pointed to certain religions or races or any other things that categorically divide people in this world. They've never pointed to any of those groups and said, you cannot play with Lego. Instead, some people have felt compelled to not purchase the brand because of pressures from society, because for some reason there are preconceived ideologies in society pushed through the social grapevine of the world that just keeps looping around, so to speak, that certain people are excluded from being included in or playing with certain toys. And I think what Lego just said is honestly something that they should have said when Ole Kirk Christensen patented the Lego brick in 1958. Because if Ole Kirk Christensen said that everyone can play with our toys, no one is not allowed to play with Lego bricks. No one is not allowed to build and play with Lego sets. If that was the memo from the start, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. And I know that some people are going to do reaction videos and they're going to do massive ranting and raving about what was just said. But I think it's important to realize that Lego has never told people, they've never told a certain group of people, you cannot play with our product. And so I believe everyone, therefore, should feel comfortable enough to say, you know what? Hello, friends. Hello, family. Hello, whoever. I am going to make the decision to buy a Lego set, and I have no shame to buy a Lego set. That's it. To be honest, I don't know where society gets some of its social norms that certain people can't do certain things, because in a perfect world, everyone who has free will should be able to make their own choices, and they should be comfortable enough to not have judgment about their decisions affect the way they feel about their decision. Because, like, Lego never told people you cannot buy our products. It's the preconceived ideologies in society has created kind of a hierarchy, so to speak, that prohibits certain people from doing certain things, and therefore, particularly for primary school and elementary school students, some people feel insecure buying certain toys. Where does that culture come from? It comes from society at a young level. And those things that we learn in early childhood development before we get into secondary education stick with us for life. Educators themselves will always tell us the most important time to start being educated is when you first get into education. So I don't know when it happened. What age in public education? I don't know what ages, whether it was preschool or kindergarten or elementary/primary school or middle school, whatever decade it happened in, that created this preconceived ideology that certain people at a certain age, at a certain gender, as a certain race, as a certain religion or whatever, saying you can't buy a certain toy, when the toy companies themselves, like Lego, has never said to someone, you cannot buy our product because you are X, Y, and Z. So it's kind of like Lego is trying to mend the broken bridges that society, through education, has created upon itself. And honestly, in a perfect world, Lego shouldn't have to be cleaning up the mess of bad education, of bad society practices, because Lego did not create that preconceived ideology that has somehow enabled people to feel that they cannot buy Lego. I believe everyone should be able to buy Lego. No one should feel judged badly for deciding to buy Lego. Lego will take our money. Lego is not going to tell us not to buy Lego. So therefore, they are not going to point to girls, for example, which is what this press release highlights, and says that, hey girls, you cannot buy our product because you are girls. No. They are not going to do that for both ethical and business practices. Everyone should be free to buy Lego. Everyone who has free will should feel comfortable enough to go to the store and buy a Lego set. double the genders, double the money, double the profit. It's basic ethics and it's basic business practices for supply and demand equals profit, etc. So those are just some of my thoughts. I think some people are going to get up in arms. They're going to pick apart some various sections about this press release. And to be honest, if LEGO was to truly get rid of... Okay, this is just my theory. If LEGO was to truly get rid of gender biases at the most extreme end of the spectrum, theoretically, there would be no gender of the minifigures. The minifigures you see in front of you, standing upon this white 6x24 studded train base. This is a male minifigure from a Creator 3-in-1 set. This is an Octan worker from 1992 with the classic smile and no hairpiece. That was from Lego Town. And this is, I believe this is Olivia, the second generation of Olivia from Lego Friends, with the in the mini doll format and the medium density rubber hairpiece, which this Olivia hairpiece is actually one of my favourite Lego hairpieces of all time. And I did not feel uncomfortable going to the store and buying friend sets that had this mini doll. I, personally, Olivia is my favourite character from Lego Friends because of her hairpiece. And I love buying Lego friend sets because, as you guys know, I prefer to build mocks rather than building sets, and Lego friend sets, basically any mock builder will tell you, Lego friend sets are really, really good for buying mocks. For example, I bought, when my sister, didn't want to, when she bought some friend sets about 5 to 10 years ago, but over time she got out of Lego. So she basically gave me all of her friend sets. And I was able, because the style of friend sets didn't aesthetically fit my city, what I did is I broke them all apart and then I parted them out and to use the pieces for building mocks. And a lot of my office buildings, for example, like at one point in time there was one of my office buildings had the cool yellow or the bright light yellow 1x6x5 panels. Those were from friend sets. I bought the Heart Lake shopping mall that was released in 2014 with the mindset that I'm going to modify this so that I can have a mall in my city, but I'm going to do some slight modifications to make it fit my city better, and that's what I did. Over time, I eventually pulled everything apart so that I could make my own mocks because I was kind of frustrated with the floor plan and some of the features. As my city evolved, the set didn't work anymore, so I pulled the set apart and I used the pieces to make my own mocks because in a lot of circumstances, even those friends' colours are really, really good for building mocks. I still have the original Lego Friends Heart Lake Hotel, a Grand Hotel, in that drawer over there, and you can also see the remnants of the juice bar set. Though that Grand Hotel I will never tear apart because that is a really good set, and I always want to have a hotel in the Paradisa section of my city. So I bought that when I was 15 years old, back in 2016. I had no shame buying that because I knew that I was going to get a lot of use out of that. I bought the Heart Lake shopping mall when I was 14 years old, back in 2015, because I knew that I was going to do something really special with that set. I bought the I guess you could call it the first Friends set that was released back in 2012. I got that when I was 12 years old in 2013 because it was a really good set. It was revolutionary for the time. It had a whole bunch of new pieces, and I knew I could do some modifications of that set and I could make my own mock out of it, and it would fit really good in the city I had at the time. And here's another thing. Lego Dots is a theme that is, I guess you could call it, it's targeted for girls, but I've bought lots of dot sets because the pieces in the dot sets are really, really good for making mocks. They have a lot of really useful 1x1s. I got these in a whole video that I still need to edit. I've bought probably, since Dots was released, I've probably bought about 15 packets of Dots, because the dots are really good for making mocks. In general, I think the themes that are targeted at girls have really good pieces, and they're really good for making mocks. So as a boy, as a man, I did not feel ashamed to buy those. Lego never told me that I personally cannot buy Friends sets. So you kind of see what I'm saying. Lego never told me not to buy them. I didn't feel ashamed to buy them. Some people do feel ashamed. That is not Lego's fault. Somewhere along the lines in public education, that pressured and made people feel not comfortable enough to buy a quote-unquote girl's toy. So if the advents of public education never transpired in the way that they've been fabricated over time, Lego wouldn't have to come up with this initiative, because this initiative should be common sense from the first place. And if Lego really wanted to take gender bias to the utmost extremity, theoretically there would be no gender in the minifigure at all. There would be no use for the mini doll. There would be no use for hair pieces. There would be no use for these detailed minifigure head face printings that clearly define someone as either or gender because of the facial features. Compared with the classic smiley face, you could use that for any gender. A lot of the minifigures from vintage Lego Town, for example, did not have hair pieces. They had hats instead. So I could only imagine boys who bought this Octan minifigure back in 1992 would have thought this to be a male minifigure. Girls who would have bought this Octan minifigure back in 1992 would have thought this to be a girl. There's nothing saying otherwise. I mean, even though Lego actually made an Octan minifigure in some of the sets that had the quote-unquote female hairpiece, if you put a baseball cap on top of a minifigure that has a classic smiley face, there is no telling what gender that is. And you see on the torso, there was no lines of any curves, or there was no signs of there is no definitions of any six-pack abs that define this minifigure as either or gender. So Lego was able to do this right, but do we want to see minifigures like this with just the classic smiley face and no hairpiece? Like we get here, clearly defined facial features of the male gender. Over here, with these Olivia mini doll, clearly defined facial features of a female minifigure. Plus we have the female hairpiece that is made out of medium density rubber and has clearly got those the hair sculpting that looks like a weave. Like, I think it's just best if I end this video right here. Those are my thoughts. Tell me what you guys think of my thoughts in the comments down below, and tell me what you guys think about my theories. Tell me what you think about this movement that has just kind of blossomed out of nowhere, but really should have never been a problem in the first place if Lego always made it clear that everyone should be comfortable enough to buy Lego products. Tell me what you think. I will see you in the next video. Thank you for hanging around this long.